Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nowadays we are in our lectures discussing about primary data collection through using various means. First we have discussed structured, semi-structured, in-depth interviews. Then we discussed about how questionnaires can be used to collect primary data. And in our previous lecture we have also discussed what is a questionnaire, how questionnaire can be used, when to use questionnaire, where it is appropriate to use what kind of questionnaire, and how questionnaire help us to gather data and information that we need to gather for our research purposes. So we have also seen that we have to basically determine what is our design of the study, and then what is our project looking for, whether it will be explanatory or descriptive, and then we will be in a position to say whether we are using questionnaire and not. And if we are decided about using questionnaire, then we will be in a position to decide whether we have to use questionnaire that is self-administered or we have to use questionnaire that is administered by interviewer. So if this is the case, then we have to understand that how we can actually manage these questionnaires. And we have seen that the most important thing in questionnaire is to administer the questions or the design individual questions in a way that each and every aspect of the question is determined nicely and understandable to those who are responding to questions. If they are in a position to understand and respond to the question nicely, then we will be in a position to get answer that we want as a researcher. And we have seen the 4 stages of preparing or understanding the questionnaire. That first, as a researcher, you have to understand your theme and the topic of your research. Then you have to have the research question that you want to have and your research objective matching to your research theme. Once these things are clear, then you will be in a position to decide the design of the questions. What kind of questions you need, whether it will be open-ended, whether it will be list questions, ranked questions, and these things we have discussed in our previous lectures. Open-ended, linked, listed, ranked, category. So once you decide about the design of the questions, then you decide about the type of the questions. This must be understandable to respondent, or he or she is in a position to decode what you are asking. That is the second stage of questionnaire design. Once they are in a position to decode, they'll definitely reply to it, they'll answer to the question you're asking. And the fourth stage is that you as a researcher, interviewer must be in a position to decode the answer that is provided by the interviewee or the respondent. So this is how this 4-stage process of designing a research question must be complete, must be understandable, and that basically depends on your basic understanding about your topic and research question and the way you design your questions. So collect responses from a large sample. So if our sample size is large, then we will definitely be in a position to use questionnaire. And of course, we have to think what kind of methodology and methods we are using, and based on our research design, then we will also be in a position to decide whether to use a questionnaire or not, and what kind of questionnaire do we have to use. So type of questionnaire, we have also discussed about the type of questionnaire, and it is either self-administered, which is given to respondent and he or she is going to administer himself or herself, or interviewer administered, where interviewer is asking question from the respondent and respondent is replying to it. And within self-administered, we have inter or intranet based mediated questionnaire, postal questionnaire, delivery and collection questionnaire. So internet, we have seen that use of internet for asking some question. Postal, where you have a mailing address of respondents, you post them and you get your response back, delivery and collection questionnaire, where you deliver the questionnaire to your respondent and you collect from them personally. And then within interviewer administered, you have telephonic or structured interview. Structured interview are also known as interview schedule, and telephonic questionnaire where you do a telephone call to your respondent and you ask the question that you want to ask. So these were the things that we had covered in our previous lecture. Today we will be talking about how to design individual questions. When you want to design questionnaire based on questions, then how you will be in a position to design your individual questions, because in our previous lecture we have discussed at length that design of individual question is very important for various reasons. First is that this leads you to analyze and interpret the data that can answer your research questions. Second, it helps respondent to understand what you are asking. Third, it also helps when respondent understand your question, the answer they provide to you through questionnaire, you as a researcher will be in a position to understand that answer. So it makes flow of information between researcher and respondent quite easily. And as we know, communication is a two-way process. So if the questionnaire or question design at individual level is not appropriate, then this flow of information between researcher and the respondent disturbed. And when it is disturbed, then it means that your questionnaire design or individual questions design is flawed, that you will be unable to gather the information you require to gather for your research purposes. So some of the important consideration while you are developing your individual questions are adopting or adapting existing questions. Remember to check copyright. You can have some already developed questionnaires which you can use to adopt or adapt to the question. If you take the question as it is, or if you are just taking the context of the question and you are developing according to your own context, either it is adopting or adapting. So questions wording. Wording must be very important. Use simple words so that it must be understandable, so that it must be easily recognizable by the respondent, and it is easily understandable by respondent so that he or she can answer it nicely. Translating questions into other language. What if your respondent is unable to read, let's say, English or Urdu, or let's say English? How to translate into Urdu, how to translate into, let's say, Punjabi, or some other regional languages that we have in Pakistan, Pashto or Sindhi or Balochi. So we have to understand our questionnaire first very thoroughly so that we will be in a position to translate the questionnaire and our questions in regional languages that exist within our country where we want to collect data. Question coding, we have to code questions so that we understand. Like in our previous example, we have seen that we have coded the choice of car responses. On what basis you will be deciding about buying a car? It will be price, it will be CO2 emission, it will be boot size, it will be depreciation cost. What are the factors? And we determine that the most important factor should be numbered as 1, 2nd, 3rd, and so on. And if you don't have any importance given to any of the thing, you have to leave the blank. And we have decided that 1 will go to this, 2nd will go to this, 3rd will go to this according to, so that was the ranking question. So you have to code them, and we have coded them. 1 as most important, 2 is relatively less important, and things like that. So this is how you can code. So adopting or adapting existing questions, wording of the question, translation, if you have to do, can you do it or not, and coding of the questions. These are the 4 important considerations when you are designing your individual questions you have to keep in your mind as a researcher. Does your question collect data at right level of detail? to answer your investigative question as specified in your data requirements table. We have also seen a data requirement table in which we have seen that there is a investigative question which actually tells us what kind of variable we need. That also lead us, I can just make a simple table here, a small table which actually tells us what was that table. So here we have to write investigative question. Due to small space I am not writing the full. So here we have to decide about the variables that we want to measure, and then here I think we had measurement of variable. Here we decided what kind of variables we need, here we decided what measures we will use, and then here I think we have said that whether this measurement is available in your questionnaire or not. So these are the 4 things that you have to mention in your data requirement table. And on this table we have seen that we have shown 2 things. One is objective of your research, and there was another thing that you can see in our previous lecture. So this is how you basically determine that the question that you ask to collect data that provides you a detailed level of answer. So you have to see this table and you have to understand whether this table's requirements are fulfilled by the question that you are asking, whether it would provide you any variable, the measurement of that variable, and then is it included in your questionnaire or not. Secondly, will respondents have the necessary knowledge to answer your question? Do you think your respondents be in a position to answer the question that you are asking? A question on the implications of a piece of European Union legislation would yield meaningless answers from those who were unaware of that legislation. So you cannot ask a specific knowledgeable question to people who don't know. For example, going and asking in rural areas about policies which are made at federal level in Pakistan will not make any sense because they might not be aware of what is going on. Or if you're asking what is the policy process in federal level in Pakistan, so people in rural areas or those who are less educated or those who are less concerned might not be in a position to answer to that particular question. So you have to understand that whether your respondents are able to answer such and such kind of questions or not. Because you know your research questions and theme, because you know your topic, because you know your research objectives, and you have decided your research design based on your sample size and all, and now you are preparing questionnaire. So in some way or the other, you also understand that what kind of respondents you will have when you go to the field to ask questions. Based on that, in your mind, you will definitely decide questions whether they are in a position to answer that questions or not. So this is how you have to understand that it is necessary for you to have a knowledge whether your respondent can give answer to that particular question or not. Does your question talk down to respondents? It should not. So talk down to respondents means that your question must not be giving an impression that okay, he might or she might don't know, or he might or she might not have any idea of what you're asking. So it should be clear. Are the words used in your questionnaire or question familiar, and will all respondents understand them in the same way? The wording of your question is very important. The words that you use in either of the language must be understandable by the respondents. In particular, you should use simple words and avoid jargons. You have to avoid jargons, use simple words. Abbreviation and colloquialisms must be avoided. Jargons, colloquialisms, abbreviations must be avoided so that people might know what you want to ask. Are there any words that sound similar and might be confused with those used in your question? The synonymous, similar word that can give difficult meanings or confused meaning to respondents must be avoided. You have to keep very careful attention to your words that you're using in your questionnaire. So while designing individual questions, you must understand whether your respondent can answer to that specific question or not. You must understand whether the data table requirements will be given based on the question you are asking. Are the words familiar with those who are responding to that question? Are the words that we are using in individual question getting confused with other words that does not convey the same meaning to respondents and they might misunderstand your question? So you have to keep in mind these small basic facts about designing questions at individual level. Are there any words that look similar and might be confused if your question is read quickly? So you have to avoid confused words from your question. This is particularly important for self-administered questionnaire. When you are not present as your researcher but your respondent is administering the questionnaire by himself or herself. Are there any confused words used? Are there any words in your question that might cause offense? Does it lead your respondent to feel offended when you use some word? These might result in biased responses or a lower response rate. So that can also lead, your word choice can lead to less response or biased response. Can your questions be shortened? Why you are writing long sentences for simple questions? Think of, can you be in a position to write the same long question in shortened word or shorter sentences? Long questions are often difficult to understand. Why? Because long questions are difficult to understand, especially in interviewer administered questionnaires where you are just asking long question. People are unable to comprehend what you have asked. What are the things that you have asked in one question? Why they were so long? So they might miss the main points in long sentences and they might be unable to understand what you want to ask, as the respondent needs to remember the whole question. So that's why we need shorter questions so that they can remember what you have asked. Based on their own understanding, they can reply to what you are asking. Consequently, they often results in no response at all. If you ask a long, huge question, they might not understand what you are asking, so they might not respond in a way that you are expecting. Are you asking more than one question at the same time? Don't do that. Just ask simple, shortened, clear, one question by one question from each respondent. Don't ask too many questions altogether. How old are you? What is your age? What is your family size? What is your education level? What is your income? Don't ask them at once. Ask one by one. What is your age? You get answer. What is your level of education? What is your income? What job do you do? Ask them one by one so that you can get answer easily. The question, how often do you visit your mother and father, contains two separate questions. One about each parent, so responses would probably impossible to interpret. So you have to ask it separately by dividing it into two separate questions. How often you visit your mother? One question, you get a response to it. And then the second question, how often you get or visit to your father? That is a separate question. Does your question include a negative or double negative? Questions that include the word not are sometimes difficult to understand. The question, would you rather not use a non-medicated shampoo, is relatively confusing. It's far easier to understand when rephrased, would you rather use a medicated shampoo? So you have complicated the question by just replacing not with rather. So that is the way you can actually ask shortened sentences but unclear one. So people might get confused, and that confusion leads you to the answer that you don't want to, or that you're not expecting. So ambiguity must be avoided. Are your questions, is your question is ambiguous or unambiguous? This can arise from poor sentence structure, using words with several different meanings, or having an unclear investigative questions. For example, if you ask when did you leave school, some respondents might state the year, others might give their age, while those still in education might give the time of the day. So the question is simple, shortened, but is less understandable. When did you leave your school? जब आप ये पूछेंगे कि आपने अपना स्कूल कब छोड़ा, तो जो लोग स्कूल छोड़ चुके होंगे वो शायद साल बता दें कि हमने इस साल में ये स्कूल छोड़ा. जो लोग अभी पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं वो ये बताएंगे कि हमने इस टाइम पे स्कूल छोड़ा क्योंकि आजकल हमारी छुट्टी इतने बजे होती है. सो दीज आर two different interpretations of the same word. Leaving school means maybe the time or maybe the year of you left the school. So unambiguity is necessary. So your question must be unambiguous, because ambiguity creates problem of understanding for respondents, and if that problem is not resolved, definitely the answer might have different for every respondent in whatever way he or she understands the question. Now comes, once we design individual questions and we have had our questionnaire ready with us, and if we know that our respondents are unable to answer in English, how do we translate the questionnaire? When translating the source questionnaire, attention should be paid to these following things: lexical meaning, idiomatic meaning, and experimental meaning, and of course grammar and syntax. So these are few points that we have to understand. The precise meaning of individual words, e.g. the French word chaud can be translated into two concepts in English and German: warm and hot. So lexical meaning must be clear for you, must not be confusing. Idiomatic meaning, the meanings of a group of words that are natural to a native speaker and not deducible from those of the individual words, e.g. English. For example, English expression for informal communication, grapevine, has a similar idiomatic meaning as the French expression téléphone arabe, meaning literally Arabic telephone, and the German expression Mundpropaganda, meaning literally mouth propaganda. So these are three different words in three various languages, but they are communicating the same meaning. Mund in in German language means mouth. So you have to understand lexical meaning, you have to understand idiomatic meaning, and you have to distinguish between unambiguous and ambiguous understanding of that particular thing. Once you are in a position to deduce unambiguity or the meaning from your words, then you will be in a better position to translate your question in the language you want to translate, and that will be easily understandable by those who are understanding. Why we are giving example of these? Because the book is written in industrialized countries, but similar can be drawn from if you are translating from English to Urdu or from Urdu to Punjabi. So there are various means of different words in different regional languages, and that can disturb the level of understanding of respondents for a particular question, and that will definitely have an impact on their responses. So after understanding the lexical and idiomatic meanings of the words that you are using in your questions, what else you can do is experiential meaning. So based on your experience of something, what you deduce from that particular word. The equivalence of meanings of words and sentences for people in their everyday experiences. In their everyday experiences, what kind of experiential meanings they deduce from one or the other word or sentence that you use in your questionnaire. That is very important. For example, terms that are familiar in source questionnaires context, such as dual career household, may be unfamiliar in the target questionnaires context. So source questionnaires from where you are taking your basic adaptation or adoption, and then the context in which you are applying might be two different things. So people in their everyday life understand things differently for the same sentence or words. And then definitely you have to take care of grammar and syntax, the correct use of language, including the ordering of words, phrases, create well-formed sentences. For example, in Japanese, the ordering is quite different from English or Dutch. Same is the case in English and Urdu, and also in English and Punjabi, as verbs are at the end of sentences. So these are differences between languages or among languages. So whenever you are translating, you have to keep the grammar and syntax of that particular language in your mind from which you are translating. So if you are translating from English to Urdu, then definitely you have to keep the grammar and syntax of Urdu in your mind, because you are translating in that language. So verb, subject or object has different places in English relative to places in Urdu or in Punjabi. So we have to keep in mind grammar and syntax of the language we are translating questionnaire into. And these are some of the approaches that are used for translating questionnaires. The source is Ozonier 1998, and the guy has translated the question using various techniques. For example, what is your approach, what are the advantages, and what are the disadvantages. On our left we have these three things: approach, advantages, and disadvantages. So this is one, this is second, this is third. And then we will see direct translation, back translation, parallel translation, and then we mixed one of these two or three of these techniques. So approach can be, number one, source questionnaire to target questionnaire. So you have a questionnaire that is available by a study that you want to adopt or adapt, and then from that questionnaire you are moving to a target questionnaire. And advantages of that is easy to implement and relatively inexpensive. Disadvantages is it may lead to many discrepancies, including those related to meaning and between source and target questionnaire. So it can lead to many discrepancies from source questionnaire to target questionnaire, but it is easy to implement and relatively inexpensive. So what if we do back translation? Back translation is what? That source questionnaire to target questionnaire to source questionnaire, comparison of two new source questionnaire, creation of final version. So from source questionnaire you move to target. From target you try to see the similarities in questionnaire, which is source questionnaire, and then you compare the two new source questionnaire, create, and then try to create the final version. So source questionnaire to target to again source questionnaire, and then you have source questionnaire that was original, you have target questionnaire, and then you have third source questionnaires which you develop based on your target questionnaire. You compare the two new source questionnaire that was original and the one that you have developed based on your target questionnaire, and then you kind of create the final version by eliminating all the discrepancies that is there in your target questionnaire and the source questionnaire that you develop based on your target questionnaire. And this is how it is advantageous to discover most of the problem. So first you have a target questionnaire, you develop a source, you have a source questionnaire, you developed a target, based on the target you developed the source questionnaire, And then you have seen the 3 different versions. First, original source questionnaire. Second, target questionnaire. Third, source questionnaire that you developed from target questionnaire. So for example, in simple words, we can write here SQ is source questionnaire that leads you to TQ, that is target questionnaire. Target questionnaire leads you to source questionnaire. So this is original, this is target, and this is what you developed from target. And based on these 3 versions, you actually do is to develop the final version. And that final version has an advantage that it must be relatively problem free, because most of the problems that are there on target or redeveloped source questionnaire can be eliminated in the final version. So disadvantage is that it requires 2 translators. One who can develop, let's say if the source questionnaire was in English and you want to develop in Urdu, then you need a translator who can translate from English to Urdu. But if you from target questionnaire you again want to develop a source questionnaire, then you need a translator who can translate from Urdu to English. So you need 2 translators, one of a native speaker of the source language, the other native speaker of the target language. So that can be disadvantageous, and it definitely is a time consuming process. Third approach can be parallel translation, and parallel translation is basically which is about source questionnaire to target questionnaire by 2 or more independent translator, comparison of 2 target questionnaires, creation of final version. So in parallel translation, what you do, you give source questionnaire to 2 translators, and they translate the source questionnaire into target questionnaire, and then you compare both the target questionnaire and you come up with a final version of the target questionnaire. So it leads to good wording of target questionnaire. Wording can be improved nicely. That has had an advantage for understanding of the questions, and it is difficult to ensure lexical, idiomatic and experiential meanings in target questionnaire. So that is one of the disadvantage of parallel translation. Now we have mixed technique, back translation undertaken by 2 or more independent translator, comparison of 2 new source questionnaire, creation of final version. So what you do, you basically mixed back translation and parallel translation. So back translation undertaken by 2 or more independent translators. So what you do, you obtained a source questionnaire, you hired 2 independent translators who do translation from source questionnaire to target questionnaire, and from these 2 target questionnaire you compare the new source questionnaire, or you develop the new source questionnaire. So source questionnaire, 2 various different translation, based on these target questionnaires you developed a new source questionnaire, and then you developed a final version. So this is how it is called mixed, because you mix back translation and parallel translation. So advantages is that it ensures best match. So it ensures the best match between source and target questionnaire, because source questionnaire is made into 2 target questionnaire. From that 2 target questionnaire you develop again a new source questionnaire, and then based on these versions you develop the final questionnaire. Definitely it is costly. It requires 2 or more independent translator, implies that source questionnaire can also be changed. So this is a disadvantage of this mix method technique. So you have to keep in mind that translation of questionnaire into regional or local language is an important business when you do questionnaire research or when you collect data based on questionnaire, if your questionnaire is not in regional or local language. So if this is the case, you have to keep in your mind that when you are translating a questionnaire from source questionnaire to target versus final version, you have at least 4 ways of doing that: direct, back translation, parallel translation, and mixed technique. Direct is that from source questionnaire you developed a target questionnaire and you use it, and you have attached advantages and disadvantages to it because it's simple and easy to do, less time consuming, less costly of course, and then it can lead to many discrepancies because you didn't check or recheck it. So it's simple from source to target and you implement the questionnaire. Then you have back translation. Back translation is that from source questionnaires you move to target, and from target you move or you develop again a source questionnaire, and then you compare the 3: original source, target versus source developed from target questionnaire, and then you compare and contrast all these 3 versions and you come up with the final version. It is likely to discover more problems, and definitely it requires more than one translator. That is also costly and time consuming. And then you have parallel translation. You do in parallel translation that source questionnaire you move to target questionnaire by 2 or more independent translator, and you compare 2 target questionnaire to create final version. So one source questionnaire you give it to 2 translator, they describe it in target questionnaire, and from these 2 target questionnaires you compare and contrast and you come up with final version. And mixed technique is that one source version given to 2 translator, from these 2 target translated questionnaires you develop a source questionnaire, and then based on these 4 versions, 1 original source, 2 translated, 5 basically questionnaires, 1 original source, 2 translated or targeted, and then 2 various versions, 2 different versions of source questionnaire to a final version. And that is definitely have an advantage of matching between source, a best match between source and target questionnaire, which is costly, more translator are required, and question of origin or source questionnaire can also get changed due to it. So these 4 important ways or methods of translating questionnaire into regional language must be kept in mind, and based on your time availability, sources available with you, and human resources available with you, you have to decide which method you are in a position to apply for translating your questionnaire into your regional or local language. So once we are in a position to understand our questionnaire and we are in a position to translate our questionnaire, then the next thing that we have to do is to start constructing the questionnaire. What are the main consideration when you construct a questionnaire? Order is very important thing, flow of questions. So if you order them nicely, the flow will be fluent and easy. And if that is the case, your questions come and taken by the respondent nicely, and he or she will be in a good position to answer them easily because the flow and order is in sequence. Questionnaire layout. We have also discussed that questionnaire layout is one of the important things. In our previous lecture, we have also briefly talked about questionnaire layout, but here when you start constructing questionnaire, you have to keep in mind the order and flow of your questions and then the layout of the questionnaire. And these 2 are the most important consideration when you are laying out your questionnaire for collecting primary data. Order of question. How do or what are the things that are important when you want to order your questions in questionnaires? So first thing that is important is, are questions at the beginning of your questions are more straightforward and once the respondent will enjoy answering? If this is fulfilled, then it is assumed that you are ordering your questions nicely. What is your name? What is your age? What is your gender? What is your level of education? Where do you work? What is your level of income? These kind of simple, short, straightforward opening questions, so that the interviewer in a position to introduce the respondent and get maximum information in simple and easy way. Questions about attributes and behaviors are usually more straightforward to answer than those collecting data on opinion. So attributes, characters, behaviors you start with and you get data easily rather than on opinions. Are questions at the beginning of your questionnaire obviously relevant to the stated purpose of your questionnaire? You must have to state the purpose of your questionnaire to the respondent. And if he or she understands it, then definitely you have to see the link between your beginning question with that of the objective of your questionnaire or the study which you have mentioned to the respondent. If there is a match between your beginning questions and the objectives, then definitely respondent starts enjoying or become pleased that the questions are easy to analyze and answer. So are questions and topics that are more complex placed towards the middle of your questionnaire? If it is the case, you have to see whether they are in the middle or not. And if they're not in the middle, you have to understand that it might create an unambiguity or lack of interest on the part of respondents. So one thing that is important is that at the beginning your questionnaire obviously relate to the purpose of your questionnaire. So you have to relate what is the purpose of your questionnaire. For example, questions requesting contextual information may appear irrelevant. In what context you are saying this or that particular question, how to respond, and this might be irrelevant because that might not be linked to what is your objective of asking these questions when you explain your questionnaire. So topic that are more complex placed towards the middle of your questionnaire. By this stage, most respondents should be completing the survey with confidence but should not yet be bored or tired. Why in the middle? Because they have done something, they are close to complete, but they are not yet bored and tired, so they are in a good position to answer your long questions, your questions that need more emphasis, and your questions that are relatively complex, not that simple. So these are the things that you have to keep in mind. Start with the straightforward questions that respondent enjoys to answer. Beginning questions obviously relevant to the stated purpose of your question, and complex question must be in the middle of your questionnaire where respondent is not getting bored and also fresh or relatively fresh to answer the complex questions. Are filter questions and routing instruction easy to follow? Whatever instruction you have given in the questionnaire, is it easy for the respondents to follow them, or it is not? If it is easy to follow for respondents, then it is okay, but if it is not, then it will definitely have a deleterious impact on understanding the questionnaire for respondents. For interviewer administered questionnaire, are instruction to the interview easy to follow? So interviewer administered questionnaire, where let's say a researcher has developed the instruction, but a research assistant has to go, or a enumerator has to go to collect the data. That person who is going to collect the data, if he is not the person who has developed the questionnaire, then he or she must have to understand the instructions that is provided there in the questionnaire, if it is understandable to them or not, and if he can be clarified to those who are responding to the questionnaire. So the filter questions and routing instruction easy to follow, so that there is a clear route through the questionnaire, and that is necessary for interviewer administered questionnaires, because the instruction must be followed by the interviewer first to make them understand to the respondent. Are questions grouped into obvious sections that will make sense to the respondent? So you can divide your questionnaire into various sections, and based on that you can ask questions that are relevant to that particular section, so that there is no haphazardness in the questions. There must be an order and sequence in the sections, and there is a flow when you move from one section to another section by asking various questions. Have you re-examined the wording of each question and ensured it is consistent with its position in the questionnaire as well as with the data you require? Re-examining the wording. We are emphasizing a lot on wording because that is a making or breaking situation when you ask a question. If your words are chosen nicely, if they convey the meaning of your question to the respondent, only then respondent will be in a position to answer that particular question. So you have to have a choice of words that is relevant to the question that you want to ask, and also convey the meaning of the question to the respondent or the subject, so that they will be in a better position to understand question at first and then reply or respond to that question in a way that you can also easily get understand. So filter questions, grouped question into obvious sections, and then re-examine the wording that you have used in your ordering of questions. Now we come to the purpose and testing. The key points is that you have to have a cover letter that is necessary when it is self-administered in questionnaire, introducing and closing the questionnaire, pilot testing and assessing validity. We have discussed these points in our previous lecture about pilot testing and introducing and closing questionnaire and assessing validity, but we will see in a relatively little detail or briefly what are these and how they are important to us. So cover letter basically explain your questionnaire in a way that those who are reading it can understand the objectives of your study, what is the aim of this questionnaire, and what in the end as a researcher you are going to get from that particular information that a respondent is providing in the questionnaire. So cover letter must be in the beginning of the question or questionnaire, and it must be self-explanatory, that the questionnaire that are self-administered must have a cover letter so that the respondent can read what is the topic you want to work on, why you are working on that topic, importance, relatively the issue that you are interested in that particular topic, your research question and objectives, and how these are linked to the questionnaire that is attached with that cover letter. If that purpose of the questionnaire is explained in the cover letter, that is one of the most important point in explaining the purpose of your questionnaire, of your study, and also for pilot testing. Introducing and closing questionnaire. What are the introductory questions you will use in your questionnaire, and what will be the closing question that you will use in the questionnaire? So you don't have to end up abruptly or start abruptly in your questionnaire. You have to start slowly and steadily, as we have discussed in our questionnaire design, in question design or order of questions, that you have to start simply, nicely, enjoyable questions. You have to put complex questions in the middle, and you have to have an ending of your questionnaire so that a respondent understands that there is an order and flow and continuity in the question, and you start from very simple, easy question and somewhere you end rather than abruptly ending the question. And definitely pilot testing is very important, and we have discussed that once your questionnaire is developed, to see whether it is fulfilling all the criteria, to check whether it is helpful in getting the information that your research needs, and also to assess whether that information you are getting will be able to answer your research questions and meet your objectives or not. If this is the case, what you do, you basically do piloting. Just choosing few respondents, you go and ask the same question that you have in your questionnaire, and you come up with an idea of whether your questions are understandable to the respondents or not. If they are, it's fine. If they are not, you have to revise your questionnaire, you have to reword your questions, you have to rephrase the ideas that you have in your questions. Whether the aim of your questionnaire is understandable to the respondent. If it is not, how better you will be in a position to make them understand by rephrasing the whole idea, either in your questionnaire or also through your cover letter. Piloting also help to understand what are the complexities in the field when you are collecting data. Does your research meet that criteria or not? Do you have to change your research questions and objectives, rephrase them accordingly? And if that is the case, does your research design or strategy meets that need? If it is, then whether your questionnaire is according to your research design and strategy, and if it is according to your research design, the questions that you ask are helpful for you to answer your research questions or not. So this is how these things are interlinked with each other, and piloting helps to understand all these linkages in a way so that to avoid mistake, biases in your data collection. So 3 important points that you have to keep in your mind while you are explaining the purpose and you are conducting the testing of your pilot is that you have to have a cover letter that explains the purpose of your questionnaire and research, introducing and closing questionnaire, and pilot testing for assessing the validity of the data that you want to collect or the information you need for your analysis. Administering the questionnaire. If you are administering the questionnaire, or if somebody who is a respondent self-administering the question, what are the points that you have to consider? Whether it is internet or internet mediated responses, whether it is postal questionnaires, delivery and collection questions, telephone questions, or structured interviews. Structured interviews or interview schedules are definitely interviewers administered, and there you have to have number 1, understanding of your question by yourself, and then you are in a position to ask question that is understandable to your respondent also. Telephone questionnaire needs that your voice must be clear, you speak in a way that other person understand, you speak the language that other people understand, and you ask question in a simple way so that it is understandable to respondent, and also you have to listen carefully the full answer or response of the respondent. Delivery and collection, if you deliver the questionnaire to the respondent, you have to clarify the purpose of your questionnaire with yourself, or you have to put a cover letter to the questionnaire so that a reader can understand the purpose of your questionnaire. Postal questionnaire must also contain cover letter and self-explanatory cover letter, as well as some idea of your research, a basic 1-page understanding, a brief summary of what is you are doing, what is your research that you want to conduct, and how through this questionnaire you will be able to achieve your objectives. And then of course on internet or intranet you have to clarify the objectives of your research study, cover letter that explains your basics of why you are conducting this kind of study using this particular format of questionnaire, and how it helps to answer your research objectives. So this is how from various ways and means you can administer the questionnaire. Before we end, I just like to summarize the whole debate about use of questionnaire in primary data collection. And we have seen that questionnaires are often used to collect descriptive and explanatory data. 5 main types of questionnaires are inter or internet mediated, postal, delivery and collection, telephone, and interview schedule or structured interview. Precise data that meet the research objectives can be produced by using a data requirement table. And that we have seen that we have a data requirement table in which we have an investigative question, the need of variables that we have, measurements of variable, so that we can have the data that can answer our research objectives. Then we have to have data validity and reliability as well as a response, which depends on the design, structure and rigorous pilot testing. So we have to have a design or research design, a structure of our questionnaire, and we must have to conduct pilot testing so that we ensure validity, reliability and response rate, increased response rate for our questionnaire. Wording and order of questions and questions type are important consideration. When you are designing questions, individual questions, the words that you use, the order of question, the flow of questions, sequence and logic of questions are important consideration when you try to formulate the whole questionnaire. Closed questions should be pre-coded to facilitate data input and analysis. Closed questions like yes or no, male, female, age and something like that, where you have answer between one or the other thing, so you have to code them. For example, if your gender is male or female, you have to code them male is equal to 1, female is equal to 2. Or if your answer has yes or no, then you have to code them with yes is equal to 1, no is equal to 0. Or if what is your religion, then you have to say 1 is equal to Muslim, 2 is equal to Christian, 3 is equal to Hindu, 4 is equal to Jesus and so on. So that you know through your coding that what is Muslim, what is Christian. So 1 means it's Muslim, and then you can see how many ones you have. So it's also easy to generate frequency or percentage tables. Important design features are a clear layout. You have to have a clear layout of your questionnaire that is understandable, especially for self-administered questionnaire, a logical order and flow of questions, and easily completed responses. So flow and logic must be in a way that it's easy to answer and complete the questionnaire by the respondents. Questionnaires should be carefully introduced and pilot tested prior to administration. Before you administer questionnaire, you have to develop and introduce a careful introduction and also to have a pilot testing. And we have discussed that pilot testing is very important, that actually avoid simple small biases or mistakes that otherwise cannot be avoided because we have done it by ourselves. So once you go in the field, and definitely some new things, knowledge or understanding of that particular problem comes in, and accordingly you have to adjust your or readjust your questionnaire. Administration needs to be appropriate to the type of questionnaire. What kind of questionnaire you are used, similar way you have to administer that particular question. If it is an interviewer based questionnaire, the administrative activities are different than if it is self-administered. Because in self-administered, the researcher or the representative or research associate is not there. So self-administration is necessary, and for self-administration you have to provide as maximum information as possible so that the person or the respondent or the subject who is fulfilling the questionnaire must understand first the research objectives, the theme and topic of your research, the aim of your questionnaire, and also individual questions so that he or she in a better position to answer them, and answer them in a way that as a researcher you can also understand. So administration is necessary, it must be appropriate, and it is according to the type of the question. Before we end up, I'll just like to re-emphasize to ensure that primary data collection is a very important part of various research projects. And within primary data collection, there are various ways of collecting information or data. Interviews, questionnaire are two very famous things, And within these we have seen various types of stuff that is important for us to understand. Within interviews and questionnaires, predominantly students use questionnaire, and within questionnaire they use either self-administered or interviewer-administered questionnaire where they can get information. So better for you is to understand this whole process in a way so that if you are starting your own research using primary data or using questionnaire to collect primary data, you have to have the basics when you are writing your questionnaire, when you are planning your questionnaire, when you are designing your research, what kind of questions you have to have in your questionnaire, where to start, how to end, what should be in the middle, how you words your questions. These are small basics but are very important things when you're trying to administer a study through questionnaire. I thank you very much for your attention, and I end up here, and we'll start with a new topic in our new lecture. Thank you very much.